Joining us now is Dr. Lawrence Scott. We welcome him back from Texas A&M in San Antonio. Dr. Scott, welcome back. Why do you feel...
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Why is it that the educational system continuously across the board disadvantage learners, particularly minority learners, and would implementing critical race theory change these dismal results? Or what is it that is needed so they can achieve at the highest point of learning in the educational apparatus?
Right. So again, thank you for having me. So I think that answer is multi-systemic. Right, so first and foremost, if you go back to your high school, like I've gone back to my high school, and a lot of times the first thing I look for is myself, right? I'll go through yearbooks, I look for myself and my friends. Well, what happens is students, unfortunately, when they're looking at the curricula, they don't see a curricula that is reflective of their experiences. So there is a part of critical race theory. I know some people have said, you know, this whole argument is not about critical race theory. There's a section of critical race theory called counter-narrative, right? And the counter-narrative is simply this. It says that we're going to tell the story of America's history and our experiences and the progression of America through the eyes of those who are traditionally disempowered. And I feel that if students see themselves reflected in the curricula, if students see that there are more than 345 years of enslavement and disempowerment, but they see themselves as an equitable contributor to the progression of this great nation, then I think that they're going to do better. There are countless longitudinal studies that show that when students, actually there's a study, the silent epidemic from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and 47% of the students that dropped out in that study dropped out because school was just not, it wasn't interesting. It wasn't interesting to them. So if students become re-engaged with the curricula, they see a curricula that is reflective of their experiences, they will do better. And they will understand that they are more than just disempowered and marginalized.
I have to interrupt you because we looked at studies at students who attend historical black colleges and university. We've examined studies of kids that have been in all blacks classes where they see themselves. And when it's all said and done, while that may play a role, but it's not a significant role as to why it is they're not learning and not being able to take advantage of the educational experience. That may be an issue, but you're making it seem it's the entire issue. I think it would be very difficult for people to fathom that that is just the issue. Come on now.
Right, no, I know. So Mr. Armstrong, like I said, it's multi-systemic. That's one part of it. A second part is we have to make sure if 83% of teachers in America are white teachers and 40+% of students are students of color, we need to make sure that our white teachers are adequately trained. When we talk about CRT going into education, it actually came from Gloria Ladson-Billings. Dr. Gloria Ladson-Billings brought to education as culture relevant and sustaining pedagogy. If we're going to make sure our white teachers are apt to teach our students of color, then they need to be adequately trained in culturally responsive instruction. So that's two parts. Three parts, then we need to recognize the institutionalized disparities that are created. So for instance, we understand that schools in certain communities don't have the same as schools in other communities, more affluent communities, all right? And we already know why that stems from, the historical context from which that stems from. Again, Mr. Armstrong, all we're saying is that we need to have a curricula that is reflective of the experiences, the counter-narrative of students of color. We need to make sure that our teachers, who are predominantly white, teaching predominantly citizenry that is predominantly of color, we need to make sure that those teachers are adequately trained in culture and sustaining pedagogy. And then we need to make sure that we address those systemic inequities within schools for discipline practices and the like.
But my brother, and we're out of time here, in many instances, those issues have been addressed and the results are not any better. Is there something that we're not missing in this conversation? Maybe what happens at home? Maybe you believe that every student can learn. Maybe you have a love of learning and you respect, and the teachers make the learning experience exciting, and you come to the classroom with enthusiasm?
Right. All we're saying is, again, and it's multi-systemic. I know there's studies about, you know, the situations at home, but what we're saying is, as a school entity, as an enterprise that is to protect and educate the next leaders of the future of America and the posterity of America, we need to make sure that they are adequately trained.
Thank you so much for joining us.